You're listening to the MS Power User Podcast. This is episode 32, recorded Thursday, January 26th of 2017. Each week on the podcast, we discuss the latest news about Microsoft, including Surface, Xbox, holographic, Windows, and Windows Mobile. Today, we will dig into the recent earnings statements from Microsoft. We're going to cover some creators update features for Xbox. We'll dig into a late week insider build, and we talk about the on-again, off-again Cerulean Mobile. My name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and I'm joined as usual by Andy Bennett. Hi, Andy.
Hey. You know, it feels weird having missed last week's episode.
we missed you. We did.
Yeah.
Listeners, if this is your first time listening, welcome. If you are a long-time listener, we really do appreciate your continued patronage. I don't know if there's a monetary value attached to patronage for it to be called that, but we are glad to do this, to get this out to you for free. So enjoy it, folks.
Yep.
And if you did not listen to last week's episode, take a chance, go back. And although Andy was not on, which was unfortunate, we did have a guest on. Just go back and listen to the episode. I had a good time recording it, but I am glad to have Andy back. I know things are getting at least a bit better in your world, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I actually did arrive home in time technically to record, but it's like after the week I had, or not week, I mean day I had, I was just too wiped to even think about setting up a microphone. It's like, you know, you spend an entire day in a hospital and you get home. The first thing you want to do is basically just pass out, and that's about what I did. So, yeah. Still, though, it was kind of fun to actually listen to the episode instead of record it for a week. So,
mm-hmm. And you didn't have to edit it.
That too.
Lucky me.
I actually got to sleep on a Thursday night.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we are going to jump into this. A few times a year, Microsoft has their earnings results. And, of course, this one, let's see, what day did this drop? Very recently. So when we talk about earnings, we talk about, they always break it up into quarters, okay? And this isn't anything new, but just a quick overview, okay, a reminder for people. We are, let's see, today's the 26th. January 26th, they announced the previous quarter. The quarter ended December 31st of 2016, and this is quarter 2 of fiscal year 17. Obviously, it doesn't go by a calendar year. Some people, this is very common knowledge. Other people may not be as familiar with this. But Microsoft staggers their fiscal year by two quarters, 6 months of the year, staggers it by 6 months off of the calendar year, if that makes any sense. I hope I'm not making people understand this less. But
I understand it a bit more, but I still look at any of this and my head starts to spin. I don't know if that's because I'm getting over a cold or it's just that financial stuff in general is just tricky for me, but yeah.
I have never been I've never been very strong with this, and I actually have in the past been very fortunate to have someone who's very good at this stuff, who does this for a living, come on a show of mine and talking in great depth on this, and that was very valuable. So, listeners, you will learn something from me, but probably not a deal today. I don't know what else to say. But Microsoft is making money. We know that they are making lots of money, and every quarter it's a little up or it's a little down in one area or the other, and that makes sense. Microsoft is a diverse company, obviously. It's a tech company, but they have a lot of different areas, and it's really awesome to go through here and see where they're making more or less money and where they're focusing and where they're retreating on that. That's fair. That makes sense. So starting us off, well, Xbox, why not? Xbox Live engagement goes up. That was kind of what they were focusing on with this. So they didn't necessarily they didn't share the numbers that were how do I say this? The number of Xbox Ones or One S that were sold, but they are sharing that the the active users for Xbox Live has increased by 15%, which gets people up to 55 million users.
And yeah, it goes in line with what they said at the start of this year when they said that last year was the absolute best year for Xbox Live engagement. So it comes as no surprise that they're making huge strides here.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that if you take a lesser known social network, and I really just pulling this, I don't have any numbers, but if you compare a lesser known social network to Xbox Live is basically a relatively large social network that you can, that we don't really think of it that way, but Microsoft has those people in that group, and it should be something, it's probably more valuable than we may necessarily realize.
Well, you think that, and then you open up Xbox Live and look at the content actually posted there, and then you just want to run away screaming.
That's fair, but different social networks, to be fair, Twitter makes you want to do that sometimes.
That too, but I mean, like, and keep in mind, I like the Xbox One and I like the Xbox, but the social network side of Xbox Live is easily the worst social network I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I get that. I do. Microsoft says that gaming revenue in general has been on the rise, 9% growth in that area. And then with video games themselves, the revenue with that grew by 57%, which is substantial. Most of this growth was driven by both Halo 5 and Minecraft, and those are obviously pretty important to the Xbox ecosystem. The something to note here is that the production of the Xbox 360 ended last year, and so there's really basically just petering out, and we don't have that core foundational cheaper product, that is relatively consistent, or especially around the holidays. So that is no longer driving a revenue, of course, to see the newer devices.
At the very least, I contributed to what's probably one of the last 10 360 sales. So
yeah,
I count for something in those numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see what's next here. Azure, just as awesome as Xbox Live, obviously. Azure is kicking some butt, and Azure has been. It's a core foundation of what Microsoft is doing, their cloud stuff, obviously. And Azure revenue has grown by 93%, which is phenomenal. I don't know what else to say about that. And Azure was not doing poorly, so this is incredible to see what it's doing here. And I wish I knew more about it. I wish Azure was sexier. We could talk all about this, but it's cloud service. Cloud data.
I will say it's kind of funny that you mentioned Xbox and Azure, because they're actually very heavily tied together. I mean, if memory serves, not only is Xbox Live and its online services currently hosted off Azure, but also Crackdown 3, which is, I don't want to say it's in development hell, but we haven't seen much of it since its announcement, and it's kind of been silent on that front for a while. But during its initial announcement, they mentioned that they would be using Azure to power the multiplayer areas, like they'd have enhanced physics that were all powered by Azure. So I find that kind of interesting, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, another set of relatively boring stuff, Microsoft Dynamics and also its other cloud services have grown quarter over quarter, but it's only been by 7%. This is another one of those areas that we kind of take for granted and often really isn't reported on that well because it isn't very sensationalizable. I suppose that's a word. But it is an area that Microsoft is growing. Just remember that like Xbox 360, for example, lost money for how many decades, or not a full decade, obviously, but Microsoft is willing to take a loss on things for a while, and right now there are not many things it's really taking a loss on. It's pretty nice, I suppose. So another thing they're making money on, or increasing in revenue, search. Search is doing well. Bing, I've always liked Bing. Andy, you've used Bing for a long time, right?
I've been a long time user of it, and I find it really interesting that it seems to be that Cortana is driving the main Bing searches.
Yes.
Which is kind of funny when you think about the fact that both iOS and Mac OS both use Cortana, or not Cortana. They use
Bing.
Yeah, they use Bing as their search backend, and they have for a long time now. But it's Windows 10 that gets the biggest boost to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's that only Windows is the platform that actually opens Bing when you search. But regardless,
Well, whether it's the back end or not, see the thing, if you have the face of Bing or the face of Cortana, yeah, that's branding. But if Bing is powering something on the back end, which well, is that what you said, that it's running? Yeah, Mac OS and iOS. That's right.
Yeah, it's for, I believe it's Siri search / Spotlight search, whatever it's called. I've yet to pick up a Mac to figure out the exact term.
Yeah,
maybe I will someday when I'm rich.
That's all the data that's helping Bing get better. Obviously, that's how it works. And for a long time, and continuing so, Google is the king of this. But I like to think of the difference being that obviously Bing is a search engine, and so is Google, but that Bing is not part of an advertising company. Google is a very important part of an advertising company. And so I would rather myself, and I'm a little biased, I like Microsoft, I would rather search through a search engine that is not entirely focused on being the bulk of revenue for a company.
Meanwhile, I'm in it for lamer reasons. I'm here for the gift cards.
Well, that's the icing on the cake, really. There's so many reasons to use Bing, and I'm not going to dig into them, but I think people listening to the show for a while have know where we place our flag.
Yeah. I will say that the reasons to use it keep on growing as they are adding so many nifty little features into search long before Google does. Like, Google got lyric search long after Bing did, for just one example. In fact, Bing even has their own speed test built in when you search speed test.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So for quite a long time, Bing was not being profitable. It wasn't. And I don't know necessarily, I guess I would say that because of Cortana, that makes sense. Cortana was one of the things that helped it push it over the edge, increase users, and
not just Windows 10. I mean, not just Cortana, because Cortana was in Windows Phone 8.1. It's Windows 10 and Cortana on the desktop specifically that started that big drive with Bing, and only after that did we start seeing reports that said Bing was profitable for the first time ever.
Yeah, correct. Windows 10 was I understand it to be the biggest part of that. And that's good. And I think you're finding that more normal people, I should say, more of the people that are more normal are starting to use Cortana on the desktop. And obviously that's a good thing.
Yep.
Surface. We love Surface. It's a hardware line. Of course, it's the premium stuff. It's the expensive stuff. And even if they don't sell enough of it, they're still going to take a loss on it. However expensive it is, if you don't sell enough, you're not going to cover your R&D, all that. We understand that. But Surface is still kicking butt. Surface is making a lot of money. So the Surface line for one quarter brought in revenue of $1.3 billion. Holy cow. Like that's fantastic, obviously. So Surface Pro 4 has been phenomenal. We love this thing. I don't have one, but I mean, people love this thing. Of course, the Surface Book, no, you can't expect that to be an incredibly high portion of it. I don't think anyone was really expecting that to do so well, but it certainly has. And then, of course, Surface Studio. The sales from that, while many of them technically did fall under quarter two, most of them would have been. It's still, I think that's just starting to wrap up. And it being a first-gen device, so the Surface Book, actually. The Surface Studio, I can't imagine that's really adding to it much. Don't forget that the Surface Hub is also part of this, although I don't actually see any numbers for that or any really mention of it in here, but that certainly is part of the Surface line still.
Yeah.
And of course, Surface Phone is going to be, wait, never mind.
We can dream.
Yeah. So Andy, 5 years ago, nobody really thought of Microsoft as a hardware company. Yeah, they sold Xbox, they sold mice and keyboards, But this is really a big, yeah.
5 years ago when I thought about Microsoft hardware, the Red Ring of Death stuff with the Xbox 360 was still fresh on my mind. So it was a case of, ooh boy, and even though 5 years ago, that was going on 1-2 years since they had begun fixing that issue, but it's like 5 years ago I saw Microsoft as the company that released a incredibly flawed product that it's like, of course, they went on to fix it, yes, but that was what I saw then. Obviously, my view has shifted completely, but as for Microsoft going on to sell all the Surfaces and Surface Book, the Surface Hub was a surprise up until the second they announced it. I would have never seen any of this coming 5 years ago, no. And even more, I wouldn't have expected any of it to be successful, but Microsoft has really gotten their act together in that past 5 years.
Mm-hmm. What's cool is that we're expecting to see another round. I mean, we're expecting to see another Surface Book, a Gen 2 device, expecting to see a Surface Pro 5, and hopefully, I mean, it's rumored, but I think there will be a small Surface device. The rumors are out there. Don't take my word for it, but that would be fantastic. Yeah, people talked about the Surface Mini. They're certainly not going to go with that name. They're going to come up with something a little bit different, I think.
I still don't think we're going to see any mini Surface device or anything like that, really. I mean, if they scrapped the idea before, I don't think we're going to see it again. That's just my personal view on it, though.
But, I mean, if we think about the iPad Mini and we think of a Surface Mini as something like that, I can see why it was scrapped. I get it. But if we think about a small mobile computing device, just like we've had, I hate saying Surface Phone, but something like that, or more portable. We've seen these different devices that are by other OEMs. I forget who it was now. Kind of Zoom Zip brand that is a PC, which is like, well, yeah, we talked about it last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago.
There was a
Fujitsu
patent.
What was that?
There was a patent from Microsoft that I don't know if you guys covered last week. Let me look. But
I actually don't remember if we covered that or not. I don't think we did, but I know what you're talking about. There's this. There are 2 different things. There is the potential of a Surface Mini foldable tablet thing, and then we're just talking about these other phablets that are trickling out. I don't know.
And I mean, we'll talk about any kind of small Surface device. I think that patent would definitely be it if it ever comes to fruition, and I don't know if it will. But Surface Mini, that's kind of like the original idea we had, or Microsoft had rather. I don't think that'll ever happen. No,
just a large mobile flat slab isn't. I don't see that's going to do anything. But think of the different Surface devices. The Surface itself, the very first one, with the hinge on the back, just like, why did we not think of that like a decade ago, right?
Well, I mean, I don't think you'd have been able to fit some of the components in there. I mean, heck, a decade before, any device of that caliber, or rather, form factor, you'd probably have the equivalent of calculator hardware in that. Seriously.
Yeah, I agree. But each Surface device has had something hardware-wise that was, I don't want to call it groundbreaking, but in some cases you could lean that way. But certainly setting it aside from it sets itself aside.
I do believe that if I recall correctly, the entire reason that the Mini was canceled was that they said we can't do anything groundbreaking or innovative with it, and we want the entire Surface line, anything that bears the Surface name, to be something new and fresh. Mm-hmm. And that's why we see stuff like, even with the Surface Book, they didn't just make a laptop; they made a laptop that can turn into a tablet. Yep. And that's what they want that brand to be. They want that to be the innovative brand, not the, oh, it's just another tablet, except it runs Windows brand. They want the definitive brand for innovation.
Mm-hmm. So, finishing up on the Surface Mobile thing, yeah, we didn't sell any Surface mobile phones lately, obviously. They're not out. And so, I think as we wait for this next thing, we know there's going to be something coming. it's in this state of limbo. We're not selling Windows mobile devices, but made by Microsoft, and so that obviously did very, very poorly. I mean, the phones themselves. I'm trying to look for the right. Here's the article. Phone revenue is down 81%. The speculation is saying that less than 1 million Lumias were sold in the last 3 months, and that stinks. That's just too bad, especially over the holiday season. Although the phones aren't necessarily a holiday sale device, but this is disheartening. But as you know, the term that's been used is retrenchment. I understand that if you're gonna, whatever. We'll talk about this another time. But anyway, very, very poor numbers for this. I don't know anyone who's
kind of really sad.
Yeah, sad just from an enthusiast standpoint, but I don't think anyone's really surprised by this. It will. Yeah, there will be an ebb and flow.
No one is surprised, but everyone is let down.
Yeah, that's true. So, but there are other devices out there, Windows mobile devices that you can get, you can use. You can get the Lumia 950 still for like, I don't know, $300 right now. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about here. So we've been talking about the hardware that we know and love, or may not actually be here yet. But Microsoft makes a lot of money on Office. Obviously, productivity in business is a big deal for Microsoft and for people using it. So we do see a growth. It is a 5% growth in quarter over quarter, and okay, it's not dropping. And I think part of it too. This is no longer the huge earner that it used to be. There's still plenty of money there. Don't get me wrong. This is important, very, very important. But it is something that Microsoft is not. I don't want to say it's peaked. How do I explain this, Andy? I think it's reached a very large percentage of its potential customers. I think we're almost flush in the market. Maybe there might be some. I'm certain there's someone who understands
like
this better than me.
That feeling of everyone who's going to own this owns it. Because I wouldn't be shocked.
Similarly, yes, and of course Microsoft does an incredible job of Office Online, the free versions, the apps that are obviously free. Those are all very important. Basically, the last one here. HoloLens is a Microsoft product, obviously. It's one of their hardware devices. And I don't see some specific numbers on how much they've made on this, but some estimates are saying that they've only sold thousands of these. Now, 1,000 HoloLens is pretty awesome, but still, they're trying to get these out into the hands of developers and trying to... They're building Windows holographic. They're making this. They're building the future with this right now, and kind of fleshing out what holographic mixed reality is going to be. I don't know. It's really going to be interesting to see what the next iteration of HoloLens is going to be. I'm sure they're going to have a cheaper version of it at some point, even just smaller and higher, longer battery life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
more sensors.
And the sales of HoloLens being in the thousands isn't shocking whatsoever. You think, all right, who are they selling this to? And then you look at the market, and like you said, it's all developers, it's all the enterprise, and you think, okay, I would be surprised if it's selling like hotcakes.
And it is a Gen 1 device. Not only is it Gen 1 is it just regular Gen 1, but it's
Gen 1 developer hardware.
Yeah, and it's like the first real generation of this type of holographic, if you think of it that way.
Any kind of holographic.
Really, it is, and there's been different prototype. Like over the years, there's been different ideas, but this is okay. It's definitely a developer device, but it is taking on the form of a consumer device. It's not all tethered anymore. It doesn't look clunky and nasty. It is relatively easy to use. I look forward to using it again when it's a little bit more refined. But I was happy enough. The demo I got was pretty cool. I was pretty happy with it. Anyway, Yeah. And then I did want to touch on one thing that people that certainly confused me, which is not difficult to do, folks. In the earnings reports, they talk about different. The revenue itself was like 24.1 billion GAAP and 26.1 billion non-GAAP, the gap. And that in itself is only $2 billion difference between the gap and non-gap. And for us, it doesn't matter. I don't really care the difference between that. But there is a difference, and they specify that there is a difference between gap and non-gap. GAAP, GAAP, is generally accepted accounting principles. They're a set of accounting principles, standards, and procedures that companies must follow when they compile their financial statements. So they must follow this, and then also they have the version that they don't have to follow, like the less official version of it. So I don't try to speculate on markets or anything like that, but the people that do that, they pay much closer attention to this, and I just find it kind of silly that, at least I guess my brain isn't big enough to really know why this directly affects me and why we even mention GAAP or non-GAAP, and that is specifically why I did not mention GAAP or non-GAAP until now, and I will not mention it again. What's up, Andy? What's next?
All right, and so all that revenue is fun and all, but there's stuff that Microsoft actually makes revenue on, and they got Windows Insider builds on that, and it's the worst transition of all time, but I'm rolling with it here. Okay, so the next Windows 10 Creators Update build is coming out, they say, later this week. This is at the point of recording, which, of course, late Thursday night. So, as we know, Microsoft, I think it's only once that they've released a build on a Saturday before, and they're certainly not going to release anything on a Sunday. So, yeah, next Insider build is most likely going to be Friday, the day that this podcast comes out, Friday the 27th of January, 2017, and it's got a lot in it. It's got a bunch of gaming-related features, which is kind of fun, as the Xbox Insider program, which we'll talk about later, is now getting going as well. And, pardon my voice, I got a bit of a cold going on right now, but, anyways, one of the biggest things coming out is that there's going to be stuff like streaming from Microsoft's Beam service built right into the operating system.
I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, and you'll access this from the Windows game bar, which you access by holding down the Windows key and pressing G on your keyboard. But I also believe that if you have an Xbox controller connected, pressing the guide button on that should open it up. and that's really nice. I mean, Microsoft's making use of something that they bought fairly quickly, which, I mean, granted, it's the Xbox team handling this as far as I can tell, which, the Xbox team does a great job with what they have. They make sure that they utilize every single service they can get, and I really appreciate them for that. I mean, I've been watching the progress they've been making ever since I got the Xbox One S, and I am just infinitely impressed with these guys. They do a fantastic job, and this is just continued proof of that. And of course, credit to the Windows team as well, because, you know, it's Windows. But yeah. Another big thing in there is game mode, which this is something that confused people for a while, because we knew about its existence for some time. In fact, we talked about it like 2 weeks ago, I think. And, yeah. What I originally thought it was going to be was fairly close. I figured they would just be swapping the priority of the game, which you can already change priorities of processes in Task Manager. You just go to the details pane, right click, whatever's going, and you set the priority to, something like normal, above normal, high, real time, whatever. Or you can set affinity and say which processors are allowed to run something. I figured it would be something like that, and it's a bit more than that, but still the basic idea is similar. Now it says that
but basically kind of like power control, your power slider, good old power slide.
Yeah.
And I like that they're making it more graphical. We talked about it last episode about how it's going to be more I guess more general user friendly, perhaps. We'll see how that pans out.
But this one's going to be built into the gaming settings, which you'll find, and it'll let you prioritize games and allocate your PC's resources to the game so that you get a slightly better experience while playing games on your Windows 10 PC. According to Microsoft's Kevin Gamil, if I said your name right, Kevin, the program manager for Microsoft's Xbox Platform Partner Group program. Who's trying saying that 5 times fast? When the game mode is enabled, a game will be able to use 80% of the cores on your PC, while other parts of the system will be able to use 20% of the cores. And this is similar to what's used in the Xbox One to maximize performance. Essentially, you put the game far above anything else, and obviously it's going to perform a bit better. And I am interested to see performance comparisons when this happens, especially as when 32 games, like Steam titles, anything that's not from the store, they're going to be supported, but because it's possible that they'll reach out to various different parts of the system. UWP apps will likely get the most benefit out of this here, because, as Microsoft puts it, with Win32, they know where the game starts, but they don't know where it ends, as opposed to UWP, where they got the entire usage of the system mapped out. They know what they're controlling. They know what to do. And, yeah, it should be really interesting to start seeing performance comparisons with this, especially as I've heard a lot of people complain lately about lacking performance from titles in the Windows Store. So I do wonder how well this will change it. Alrighty, next thing on the list is that Microsoft's providing a closer look at Windows 10's upcoming Windows Defender Security Center app, and I will hand that one over to Vernon.
Okay, I was not prepared for this, but I can read. Nope, no problem. So, okay, Windows Defender Security Center app. Windows Defender has been around for a while. Windows Defender Security, that kind of broadens out a little bit into more things than just Windows Defender. And of course, Windows Defender Security Center app, it's pulling all that stuff in together. You have family options in there, which is nice. That's actually something, I would love to do a little bit of a mini special on that sometime and talk about how that applies to real live users like myself, who really don't use it that much, but tracking family and stuff like that, controlling some of those things. So there's some of the main features of the new Windows Defender Security Center. Virus and threat protection is obviously going to be there, and I don't see how that's any surprise to anyone. Device performance and health. That's going to provide a single view of your latest Windows updates, drivers, and of course battery life and storage capacity. That's a little bit different. We weren't necessarily expecting that. I understand why it's all in there. It's like the overall health of your PC. Okay, a little bit. I mean, it's a stretch, but I do get it. I understand that. Of course, firewall and network protection, not just your PC, but your network. That makes sense to link that in there. I'll take it. That makes sense. App and browser controls, so some different things. Smart screen is in there. Different, warning for potential malicious sites and unrecognized apps, things like that. From a browser standpoint, that's going to be part of there. And like I mentioned before, family options. It's all going to be together, and I think that's really good. They're calling it an app. We'll finally get away from the control center dialogue that we see. I don't know which year we'll finally phase off the very last remnants of that. We'll see about that. But I like it. I'll take it.
Boy, excuse me again. Yeah. Next thing on the list is that Microsoft's running an insider survey and offering a $1,500 reward. Well,
Andy, I love how you call it 1.5 thousand. Like, I don't know anyone else who says that, but I like that you do.
I have. Maybe it's a kind of a location thing, because around here, I mean, sure, you'll hear, like, I'd say maybe 10% of people would say $1,500, but most people would say that. around here.
Yeah, it must be location based or region based because
Yeah.
I very, very rarely hear 1.5. And I love that we've just ventured into demography. So,
Yeah.
all right.
One thing that I don't know if this is tied to demography or not. So yeah, survey. This prize is this is
Leave that. Don't cut that out, Andy. That's
yeah,
good.
I am saving that. That is going on our highlight list for the end of
Yikes.
this year, if I remember.
I won't, but it was funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways,
Prize. 1.5.
and that's $1,500 in Windows Store credit, and this is given out to one random person who enters the survey. But it's not only that you complete the survey; it's that you complete the survey and enter your Microsoft account email, so that they'll check and see, yes, you're an insider, yes, you were invited to this survey, and they'll look over your answers. And it's a very in-depth survey about the current state of the Windows Insider program and Windows 10 as well, and asks you stuff like, why did you join? Why are you here? How can we treat you better? General stuff what you'd expect on a survey, but it's a very thorough one. And honestly, if you end up with the grand prize, you earned it.
Well, no, we get some of that, Andy, because we're telling them about it. We're okay.
I wish.
To be honest, I think that $1,500. I mean, everyone wants $1,500 in Microsoft money. Okay, great. Why wouldn't you? I think that they could do like 5 of these and not feel excessive. They could do 5 $1,500 prizes, or step them down. Whatever, because there's still an awful lot of insiders, and they.
And the question is though, how many of them are actually going to do the survey? Especially when they see the length.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you saw the survey, but I think the way that Brad Sam summed it up on Twitter is the best. It's 84 hours long.
Okay. Well, how divide that out by 1,500? How many dollars an hour is that?
Probably not enough.
At the chance, all right. Yeah, obviously the odds of winning this are still relatively slim, except. Here we go. Listeners, don't take this. This is horrible. This is going to ruin your life. Andy and I will take it, and if we win, we're going to split the earnings between the two of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the fact that Windows Store credit, I'm pretty sure, can also be used for Xbox One games. So
that's true.
I'll take this.
Yeah. It's not worth your time, people. Don't do this.
Absolutely.
Money. All right. Next one.
It will only corrupt you.
Yes. Speaking of not worth your time, this is horrible. It's biting. Okay.
This is the most savage transition from story to story we have ever seen.
All right. Wharton Brooks. The saga continued. The saga just keeps continuing. The Wharton Brooks Cerulean Mobile saga continues. On Twitter, they had tweeted, ironically enough, right, out a picture of this phone, or 2 phones, in bubble wrap. You can't tell what they are. Obviously, they're black slabs with maybe a white or silver, case, shell, I should say. I don't know. They're saying that this is their new device. He has a nice marble or quartz countertop. I'll give him credit for that, actually, that these pictures are being taken on. But he says on the tweet, final samples are on their way from Shenzhen. Fingers crossed that they are ready for the testing labs. Should we name them? Well, first of all, I don't know how you wouldn't name them. Okay. But there have been some people that dig deep into this and have made very good guesses what they think is the Koship Mali PC Phone W6, which at least is considered a respectable mid-range device. Does use USB Type-C, has Continuum. I mean, Continuum, they said they want Continuum on here. They want the newer hardware. They want the newer features, as far as the charge port and things like that in their podcast. They haven't put out an episode in a while. So if it is the device
just to interrupt a little bit here, that if that is a co-ship, it does match up with the initial thing where we took a look at their PR images, and it's like, oh boy, they're just holding co-ship moles. Wow. And I said this many, many, many weeks ago when we last talked about them, which was, of course, last when there was news about them. But I don't really trust this company at all. I'm sorry, but I have a hard time trusting some little upstart company that comes and says they're going to revolutionize the mobile industry and starts showing pictures of somebody else's phone.
Yeah, when you overpromise like that, it is really tough to. You literally, the words they said was something like that. Revolutionize the phone industry. Isn't that everyone trying to do that, and very few of them actually succeeding? So it is. It does seem a little bit disingenuous, and it definitely decreases the respect that they're earning, and it's kind of a joke at this point. Yeah. But if this phone comes out, if the phone that we think it is comes out within the next year, and isn't completely outdated by the time it's available, it'll be a respectable little Windows Phone device. And the thing is, I would want one of these just to say that I had one. Because there's a good chance there won't be another one, sadly. I have a Kin 1 and a Kin 2 in their original packaging. And I love those. I am so proud of those things. No, they were horrible. You should not use a Kin. You should not have. But it's a perfect thing to have on your shelf because it was a small blip in an era. And then again, the Kin line was basically the predecessor to Windows Phone. Anyway, we're not going to dwell on that, but this is one of those things.
I'll just interject there and just add one more thing to our little detour and just say that you're saying this near the same person who almost bought a Halo 3 Zune a couple of weeks ago. So
that's everyone should own a Zune as well. Anyway, but this, Cerulean Mobile or by Wharton Brooks, I can't imagine it's going to be incredibly profitable or anything like that, but I think it's going to be very, very interesting. It's certainly a reason for Windows mobile enthusiasts to get excited again to have something blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about it more later on, but I'm excited for this, even if it flops, even if it is even like a scam. I don't even know.
If it's just a rebranded phone, I got a hard time thinking it'll be anything special, personally.
I just like the idea of it, that it is just like he decided to start this company for a phone.
I guess.
Whatever. Anyway,
this is good cop, bad cop, and we can easily tell.
We'll continue. The saga will continue. Yeah. So, all right. So moving on to this. Let's see. What do we got left here?
Xbox stuff. Yeah, Xbox stuff, which is a lot of stuff.
I can nap again. All right, go for it.
All right. Here's to hoping my voice survives this, but yeah. The Xbox Insider Program was mentioned, it was a while ago, and that was a rebrand to the Xbox Preview Program, which was previously the new Xbox One Experience, if memory serves, and that was continuation of a preview program back in the 360 era, but now it's changing quite a bit. It used to be that you got invites to the program, and this was often based off the feedback you had contributed in the past. Well, now there is one open ring for everybody. Note that I say one open ring because the way the Xbox Insider Program is structured is similar to the way the Windows Insider Program is structured. Who'd have guessed it? But there's some extreme differences here that are certainly worth mentioning. Now, of course, on main Windows desktop, we have a couple of branches. We have, of course, stable, but as for anything insider related, we have release preview, which is for checking out basic things that are, of course, not too risky. We got slow ring, which are insider builds, definitely can be risky at times, but they're generally patched up. Then we have fast ring, which is it's life on the edge. Then now, when we go over to the Xbox rings, we got quite a few differences. The biggest one is that there are 4 different active rings, and all of these are carrying insider builds, as opposed to, where we got just 2 on desktop and mobile. Of course, not counting anything for Microsoft employees. But let me just pull this up here real quick, because I gotta read these names again, since I'm too used to fast ring, slow ring, release preview, etc. Excuse me. Oh, I just read. Okay. Pardon that. Anyways, as for the 4 rings, we have Alpha, Beta, Ring 3, and Ring 4. Presumably, they couldn't think of any fancy names for the last 2. Anyways, Ring 3 and 4 are basically the fast ring and slow ring, respectively. Ring 4 is, by default, the ring you enter through I believe it's called the Xbox Insider Hub. And once you get in there, that is the first one that is the only ring you can enter freely. As you sign up to be an Xbox Insider, you get into Ring 4, and that is a single update per month, usually. You will not get anything fancy. It is just that. However, if you participate in the program, you'll start to get to move up in rings. And this participation comes with Microsoft's suggestions for activity in the program, completing quests, surveys, polls, and ratings in the Xbox Insider Hub, as well as reporting bugs and submitting feedback. And the biggest one of all, simply using your Xbox One regularly while on an Insider build will build up your activity points. Well, not exactly points, but you get the idea. And these will let you move up in rings. And then Ring 3, the fast ring equivalent, you'll get 2 to 3 updates per month. Ring 4, I'm sorry. And then, of course, that gets up to the alpha and beta rings. And these ones are once you start getting updates weekly. Beta, you'll get a maximum of 2 builds each week, minimum of 1. Whereas Alpha, the most bleeding edge of all time, far more than desktop would ever get. Actually, this is what I saw a lot of people request for desktop back in the early days, back when Gabe All was leading the Insider program. You can get 2 to 3 builds each week in the Alpha program.
Yowza.
Yeah. And previously, apparently, there were people complaining that there were too many builds getting pushed out to Xbox Preview Program members, and the choice of rings is to rectify that. And this is what I kind of want Desktop Insider Program to be like, because you're getting builds sent out to the people who contribute to the program. That is your reward for contributing. It gives people a reason to contribute and reason to start submitting feedback. It also means that the feedback that you are submitting, I mean, like, once you get into the higher rings, like, I'd say that you are going to get the best feedback from Alpha Ring members. Not just because of the quantity of builds, but because you have a fewer quantity of members. And of course, I believe that once you have too much feedback, feedback, if you were looking at feedback about features, some of this could just get to be noise. Because you'll have 1,000 different feedback requests, and you obviously can't look over everything. Yes, you can look over some of the stuff that's upvoted, but so much of it, I mean, you just look at the feedback hub now, and you'll see so much of the stuff that's upvoted is just never going to happen. Some of it's just silly stuff. But as you get to that alpha ring, you'll find people who are serious about the program, who are serious about improving the experience for everybody, and these are going to be the die-hard Xbox fans, the diehards who want to change the system for the better. And I do think that's kind of how Desktop Insider, maybe Mobile Insider 2, should be handled. As you're going to get higher quality feedback, and of course, that means higher quality improvements all across the board. And we'll see how this turns out, but yeah. And yeah. That's how the rings run. As for some of the actual changes in it, the first build, which went out to the Ring 4, I gotta get used to that. Wow. But that changed a lot of stuff. One of the biggest changes to it was that the Xbox dashboard is now getting a redesign, and so is the Xbox guide. Now on the Xbox 360, which, keep in mind, as far as I can tell, the Xbox One actually didn't launch with a guide at all. You would simply go to the home, but the Xbox guide arrived. Boy, I think that was with the August update that came out the same day as the Xbox One S brought in the, guide to the Xbox One. And, well, I'm gonna get recollected here, but that was accessed by double tapping the guide button, home button, whatever. And honestly, I felt that to be a bit of a mess, because more often than not, I go to try and open that, and surprise, surprise, there I am on the dashboard, which is not what I want. This way, the new way, you press the guide button while in a game, you get the guide, press A once to go to home. It makes sense. It's done a bit closer to the way the Xbox 360 did it, which was honestly brilliant. It's much faster, makes more sense, works better overall. There's no downside. Then the dashboard itself is getting some changes. It's hard to describe. You're just gonna have to see a picture, I guess, but everything is changed around a little, getting faster, better design, in my opinion. Looks nicer. And then also, snap mode is dying and being replaced with a picture-in-picture mode, I think. And that's done for a couple of reasons. I remember, I believe it was Mike Ybarra, who, again, hope I'm saying his last name right, said that it would reduce the load on the system, which that's always good. Excuse me. Cannot complain there. And, yeah. There was also a bug-fixing update that went out, apparently, as well, just, I think it was yesterday. And yeah, in summary, Xbox Insider, lots of new stuff. It's big, and this cold is killing me.
Cool. Well, that part isn't cool, but the Xbox Insider program, new Insider stuff, it does sound pretty cool. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it simultaneously brings stuff more in line and less in line with Desktop Insider.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain, because I mean, maybe it's a bit of a weird comparison, but you think about how, say, you know, it's like it's an experiment, I think. It's like one little experimental lab. Yes, you want consistency across the company, but you also got to think about why is this inconsistent across platforms? Well, maybe it's because they're seeing what method works the best. And I do believe that it's going to go with a quality over quantity feedback type. And I do believe that if it's a success on the Xbox One, you might very well see a special ring pop up on desktop for Windows Insiders who contribute to the program a bunch. I don't think they're going to just lock down fast ring, but I mean, maybe they'll add a special Windows Insiders who really care about the program, etc., ring.
Yeah, nice.
That's what I do believe is going to happen. And then, as for one final,
I can relieve your. Oh, there's a piece of news. Sorry.
If you,
Well, I can cover this.
Yeah.
All right. So there is. Let's see. Back in the day, there was Flight Simulator by Microsoft. That was a long time ago, and certainly not what we think of today as Flight Simulator, but there is something called Ace Combat 7 that has been officially announced for Xbox One. Pre-orders go live. When do they go live?
They're live on Amazon now. And yeah, very, very different from Microsoft Flight Simulator, but the thing is, kind of funny that the first flight simulator on the Xbox One isn't by Microsoft. Although this is, of course, as the name Ace Combat implies, it is a flight combat simulator, not just a flight simulator, but regardless, still Microsoft Flight Simulator for Xbox One win.
Mm-hmm. And Andy, your voice is about gone, buddy. App of the week, Andy chose this, so he gets the credit. And it is something that everyone should have. Your handy-dandy little app to check your internet speeds. Ookla. Ookla is a good app for that, obviously. And you can compare different speeds you've sampled or whatever. But it has a nice little a list for that to compare and what have you. Pretty self-explanatory. You can go to the web for Ookla, of course, or you can just use the app, and you can imagine the app would be a little bit snappier. That is kind of by design. So go do it. And I think it's, to be honest, I don't know if it's available on mobile.
I'm pretty sure it is. I believe it's a universal app.
Okay, it's supposed to be, at least. Well, that is it, everyone. thanks for listening to another episode of the MS Power User Podcast. Thanks for going to the site. And if you're at the site, that's probably why you're listening to the show. And if you're listening to the show and you don't necessarily go to the site, please do. We cover just a slice on the podcast. On the podcast, we cover just a slice of what is covered on the site, of course. We've got a lot of great writers. I'm really proud to be working with this group of people that are really doing something special with the news in the Microsoft space. I'm proud to be part of that. You can follow the site on Twitter at MSPowerUser. And of course, that's when you'll see links to articles and posts and things like that. Same thing with the podcast will be tweeted out there. And Andy does majority of the work on that, getting that up all prepared and published on Friday of every week. You can follow us individually on Twitter. I am at VernonEL, and Andy is coughing away on his keyboard at FusionFan45. And, if you are interested in the Xbox Insider stuff, and I would imagine this is like this is the new thing. Okay, if you're on the leading edge or bleeding edge, or everyone wants to call it, if you want to be on the forward edge of this, of whatever is new with Microsoft, jump into this and hit up Andy, because I know he's going to be pretty involved with this, if not at least staying very, very close to what's going on with this. But you'll be in the know, certainly. So I would say you could even email Andy, say, hey, I'm doing this. I found this little thingy. What do you think of it? And all of that.
Yeah, that would be Andrew at mspoweruser.com. And I check those emails regularly, of course, because press releases and whatnot. But yeah, I have yet to leave an email unread there. So by all means, come on, say hi. And of course, submit apps for App of the Week if you'd like. That'd be fun.
Yes. All right, let's relieve Andy's voice, and we will relieve your ears, listeners. Thanks again for listening. Have a great week.
Hoorah.